Hey guys, Hunter here with Foundation Disc Golf, and in today's video we're going to be starting a series on form work and breaking down the backhand form. So today we're going to be talking all about footwork and the X step. You might notice I have this net behind me. When you're doing form work, this is a great investment. This is just a baseball net. We picked it up at Play It Again Sports. You can typically find them from like, I think, $50 to $100, somewhere in that range. Not crazy expensive, but it's nice to be able to work on your form, throw tons of shots, and not have to walk far to get your discs. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump right into breaking down the X step. Alright, so we're going to break down the X step actually starting before the X step. When I demonstrate this, I'm going to be using putters, mid-ranges, and drivers because I want you to see that your X step doesn't change. Your footwork stays the exact same. Only thing that will change slightly is what happens before the X step. So for instance, with a putter here, my X step, getting into my X step, I take two small steps, and you'll notice probably 90% of the pros do as well. I think eagles just start sideways, but the reason for this is because you want to have that muscle memory that builds in, because you'll notice with drivers, pros are like full sprinting. They're like 1, 2 into their X step. With a putter, you don't need all of that momentum build up. You just need a little 1, 2 to get your X step started. So that's step 1. You don't really need a drill to work on that because you're just walking. Step 2 is my target line is this way. So I'm starting here with my little 1, 2. Then the first step of my actual X step is going to be with my lead foot. For me as a right-handed player, that's my right foot. And it's going to be perpendicular to my target line. So essentially, it's turning my hips from facing the target to facing sideways. Alright, so that's important. The whole point of the X step is to get your hips set up to throw. So the first step is getting your hips sideways, which is your front foot being sideways. Alright, then the next step of the X step, so that's point 2 to focus on, is your first step. Try to get it sideways. A lot of people have it open. That's not good. It's going to throw everything off. Get it sideways. So now that we have the 1, 2, a sideways step, next thing you want to do is your left foot come behind, and your left foot's going to be facing this way too. But what it does is to get your left foot even in this position, your hips have to start turning backwards. So my hips have went from straight to about, what is this? 90, 130 something degrees this way, 135. 45 degrees off of this line, essentially. This way, almost straight back. So then, now that my hips are here, this is the final step, and this is the one that people get really tripped up on, really messed up. You go here, here, this last foot, as you reach back and everything with your upper body, which we'll talk about in a later video, the last foot needs to have the sole of your shoe facing your target line, and it turns your hips completely away. So my hips are facing here, right? So then what happens is, now all my weight's loaded on this foot, my heel is facing my target line, my hips are turned away because of it. This is all based on footwork. My pointer foot is facing this way. As my weight transfers, I push down here, and then I rotate out as I come through. So the X step essentially just sets you up to do that motion. So we're going here, here, and then laces away, push forward, and then transfer all your weight. And then the very last thing is probably the difference between the amateur and the pro level distance throwers, right? So we're here. A lot of people get here. A lot of people can do this. The next part, bracing, is one of the most important things. The only thing that should cross the plane of your front foot when you turn is the disc. The rest of your weight and everything else should stand behind your toe. It should not cross that plane. It shouldn't break that plane. What does that do? It allows all the momentum that you just built up in your X step to be transferred straight into the disc. So players, most of them brace with a straight leg. I know players like Germ brace with a little bit of a bended knee because he's a lot bigger. But regardless, you don't break the plane until you follow through, and then you break the plane to catch your balance. But when the disc initially is thrown, you brace, and then you come through. So that's the generic basics of an X step. I'm going to demonstrate it some, and then I'm going to teach you some drills to work on each individual part of it. So the first throw I'm going to be demonstrating is going to be with a putter. So like I said, with a putter, I'm just kind of taking a few steps just for muscle memory purposes and then getting into my X step. So the putter footwork will look something like this. Alright, next up we're going to be going with a mid-range. It's going to look very similar to a putter. The only difference is I'll put a little bit more effort into it, a little bit more speed, more so than anything, but the initial start and everything like that will look very similar to the normal putter X step I just showed. Alright, last but not least, we're going to be throwing the driver. This is one of the farthest drivers in my bag, the D1, so I'm really, when I have this disc in my hand, I'm really trying to crank up on it. So that means the steps before the X step change. They're the same, they're just a lot longer, and I put a lot more effort into it. So yeah, my first 2 steps are going to be bigger, and everything after that's probably going to be a little bit bigger, a little bit more explosive, but the same movements is what I want you to see in this. So yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Alright, so now we're going to go over some drills. I want you to get a putter. This one's a PA4, just a straight putter will do though. Pretty much anything just straight and slow is what you want when you're working on your form initially, because it'll show you your errors. If I throw this and really crank over on it, it's going to like roll. If I put hyzer on it, it's going to hold the hyzer. If I throw it flat, which is what I want to do, it's going to do it. With footwork, angle sensitivity is not really that big of a deal. We'll get into that later. But you do want the putter just for purposes of feel, flight, and stuff like that, especially if you're in an open field and don't have the benefit of a net. So what we're going to do with these drills is you're going to work from the release backwards. It's kind of like if you ever watched the old, I think his name's Dan Beto drill. It's called from the hip backwards. It's focused a lot more on upper body. Kind of the same idea with the footwork. So what you're going to want to do is line up like you just took your last step in your X step. So what does that mean? Essentially, for when I'm just standing here, my hips are going to be faced here. I'm going to have this. The biggest thing you want to make sure is the sole of my foot, the middle here. The middle of my foot should be in line with the toe of my back foot. I want them staggered. Why? Because if you're coming through an X step and you go into that last step, they're going to be staggered. That's how they need to be. That allows your hips to turn back. This is in front. I can't get my hips to turn back without being really off balance. When I'm back, that's another thing. And one thing I forgot to mention a little bit. Throughout this whole process, you want to be low and you want to be in an athletic position. Okay, but for this drill, I'm going to start with my front foot, both feet facing this way, and then I'll be low, and as I reach back, I'm going to turn my front foot like this, and then I'm not going to throw yet. I'm going to just practice that. Just reach back and turn. Make sure my heel is facing that way and my hips are facing that way, and that's going to be what I'm doing. Just get comfortable with that for a little bit. It feels stupid, it looks stupid, it is stupid, but it works. Okay? So as you reach back, you turn, just keep doing that. Get used to it. Once you're used to it, now what you're going to practice is the next step, which is hitting, right? So that is my weight transfer. As my weight transfers, my foot should turn a little bit. So when my foot hits the ground, when my heel hits the ground, my foot should be sideways again. Right? So I'm going back and hit. Just like that. Okay? I'm practice that a little bit. So do each of these until you're comfortable, until it feels like when you reach back you should be here, and when you start to pull through you should be there. So then what you're going to do is now you're finally going to follow through. Okay, I would recommend using a towel or something. I'm going to just hold onto the disc because I don't have a towel right now. But I would recommend something like that first, just because it's going to feel weird. The disc is going to be discouraging when you're throwing it. It's not going to look great. Just to get some feel for it, I'm going to just hold onto my disc and not let go. But what you're going to do, you're just going to reach back and turn like we just practiced, and then when you come through, you're just going to follow through. Alright, so I'm going to just reach back and turn, follow through. And when I follow through, I want to make sure that I'm not like falling out of frame, falling forward, like all of that. I want to be balanced. I want my weight to transfer under my front foot, whether my knee's bent or straight. If you have knee problems, you should probably bend it a little bit. Keep it whatever though. Just you should always be balanced. So I shouldn't be falling forward and uncontrollable. So I want to just have it here, reach back, pull through. Alright, and you're going to practice that a few times. And once you get this down and you feel comfortable with it, then go ahead and throw one. Yeah, so now we'll work from there backwards a little bit. Alright, so you got that down. You got the stand still, reach back, pull through down. What's next is you want to start like you're in the middle of your X step. Okay? So I'm going to start with my feet together. Right? And then what I'm going to do is as I reach back, I'm going to step forward. Okay, so I'm gonna stand here, and then as I reach back, this is mimicking your last step in your X step, right? So in your X step, you just want to bloop, bloop, and this is mimicking this next step here, right? So we're standing both our feet together, weird, unbalanced position, and we're just gonna step forward, and as you step forward, you're gonna turn your foot back and turn your hips back and then throw. All right, so it look like this. You'd step forward here and then transfer there. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and toss one. And this is probably going to feel uncomfortable. It's not natural, feels weird, but it's a good practice to focus on getting your foot staggered, because you're going to be coming from together to here, and also get in the rhythm of when you plant your foot, it should be backwards, right? So we'll start together, and then as I reach back, go through it. All right, guys, that's all the drills I have for you. Once you master those, then all it is just adding in the first step or two to the X step, and then you'll be good to go. One thing I would recommend is once you get it down, if you do have a net, it's a great tool, but once you get it down with the net or without the net, when you get out to the field, try to use some straight putters and mids. This is a beat up M2 and a PA4, but whatever brand you throw, doesn't matter. Straight putter and mids are where to go when you're first working on your form. You'll be able to throw them smooth, power down on them and not worry about them tanking, and really see how you're doing. Because if you throw a putter smooth and straight, it should go smooth and straight, especially something straight like this. If you're throwing a Harper, something like that, obviously expect different results. But once you step up to the driver, don't focus on cranking up on it, because once you try to throw it as hard as you can, you'll forget all that you just learned. Focus on still being slow and smooth. You might have to disc down. If you typically throw D1s, you might have to disc down to a D4 or something like that. Or if you typically throw destroyers, you might have to start throwing leopards. Really, whatever you throw, disc down, throw smooth, get used to it, and then slowly build it back up. But that's all for the footwork. Make sure to subscribe if you want to also see us break down your hips and your upper body of a backhand, as well as forehand and overhand. They're all coming out within the next few months, probably. All of them will be out. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe and like this video. Comment down below what you've been struggling with and what this helped you figure out about your X step. If it helped you with anything, maybe you're perfect, I don't know. But thanks again, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Alright guys, so that's all the drills I have for you.
Where is he?
Frick me!
Did you hit him?
Yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah.